Hi, my name is Hannah Trisky, and I am a part of Professor Manish's environmental science class at Midland University in Fremont, Nebraska. For my final project, I am doing a presentation/paper on protecting Fremont's wildlife. To start things out, this is the current map of Fremont and what it looks like. As you can see, there is only one main water source that is located on the west side of the city. You will also notice that there are 4 parks that basically run all across the river, right near the river, where most of the dense vegetation and shrubs are found. A negative aspect of this is that since all the water source and parks are located on that side, the east side does not have many resources for its wildlife to sustain their life or have easy access to them. Due to these limited resources, the wildlife in Fremont would not be able to survive very long in the long term just because they do have limited resources, and over time these resources are already going to be perishing. My plans for the future of Fremont is to create a waterway system that goes throughout the city, which will essentially make the water sources more available to all of the wildlife, and I was thinking that it could be more in a more like circular path that connects from one end of the river to the other end of the river. And I was also hoping that I could have a trail system go alongside the river, just to get people more motivated to be a part of the environment and help out, and to have people out there getting exercise and be also able to sightsee and admire the environment and the wildlife while staying at a respectable distance and keeping safe. I also am hoping to plant more vegetation and shrubs around, not only in the west side where there is already shrubs and stuff, but all around the city so that all of the wildlife have proper access to these resources and food. I'm also hoping to create more compost throughout the city and to encourage and make more awareness about what composting is. This could be mentioned in a city meeting, and I'm hoping to make it available to not only people for personal use in their backyards if they want to have one, or but to also allow parks to start creating compost and encouraging people to go drop off their food and that sort of stuff, because it is an easy way to get rid of your food. This is the most important slide that I have. On the top left, you will see an example of a compost, which you can find in various parks around the city. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see a pathway / road sort of deal that is right by a water stream, and that is basically what I would imagine my plan looking like in action. So now if you look at the middle of the map, obviously I know that it is not the most detailed or extreme map you've ever seen, but my details do get the point across, and they explain everything that I'm trying to add to the area. As you see, connecting to the left side of the Platte River in Nebraska is a blue colored line which goes in that circular motion and connects to the stream down the city. I'm hoping that this is a sort of tributary sort of deal where we could create this streamway to run around the city so that the wildlife have access to this water wherever they go. And I would not allow or encourage human use of this. I mean, recreational activities, might be fine, but I don't want any of this water going towards buildings or anything. And alongside that blue river, you will see a black dash line, which represents the trail. Like I mentioned before, that I want people to be a part of the creation of. I think that it's not only going to be good for the wildlife, just to have some more room, but I think it's going to be good for the people to get out and really see what their environment looks like, and to do some sightseeing, and just to get a more real look at what our world is and what our city looks like. As you see, I added a park in the bottom right corner because there are four parks on the west hand side of Fremont, and there's not really any on the east side. I think that it's important to have a park and have a spot for more composting and that kind of stuff. And you'll also see that I decided to add 3 gardens, which are those red squares. And I was thinking that we could add some local grown foods, some veggies, some fruits, some herbs, some kind of that stuff. And I know that my elementary school did that, and now they are one of our main local growers that our fresh and natural food goes out to the city in. And so obviously it would be beneficial to us humans and our community, but it's also going to be beneficial to the wildlife because they will have a part in helping the growth of it, and they will have a part in being able to have access to those resources for their own personal reasons and for their food sources. The purple scribble lines represent the vegetation that there is, that I'm hoping to slowly start to grow in Fremont. As you see, it's not just in one spot; it's all over, because vegetation and shrubs are really important to these wildlife. It's not only important for, like I keep saying, food sources and that kind of stuff, but because urbanization keeps growing, they often lack a good amount of privacy and a good amount of what their natural life would be. And so I think that it's a good idea to grow more of this, because it'll help just for their bodies to grow and for them to have proper resources, but it's also going to give them a better quality of life. Some things that other cities can do to alleviate stress on wildlife are stop and reduce expansion of our urban areas, and to ensure that we do not intrude in on the wildlife. Kind of like I mentioned before, a benefit of this is that it's going to give the wildlife more space, and it's going to make their lives seem more natural and normal since we are expanding. And because if we keep expanding and keep continuing to expand, it's just going to reduce their habitat, and we're just going to take away their land, which is just as important as our land. Another thing, like I mentioned before, is that we could start composting and encouraging recycling throughout cities all over. This encourages less trash, and it also allows us to start regulating that putting old foods and materials to waste is not something that is very difficult, and I want to educate people on how to do that properly, or some better ideas for that. A benefit of composting is that it can help all the soil that it's involved in to gain nutrients and materials, and any insect or animal that then is involved within that soil, eats from it, whatever, is only going to become healthier, which is very important. Another thing is that recycling and reusing products decreases the amount of trash waste that ends up going into landfills, and it also releases or decreases the emissions that also come from that. My favorite thing of all of the ideas that I had for cities to do is to start a board/club/foundation that deals with the wildlife and enforces that they are protected in the area. I know that every school I've been at has had some sort of earth club or animal club or wildlife club, and I think that this is important because it not only spreads awareness, but it also helps ensure that these wildlife have proper resources, not just talk. It's actions that speak louder. So a benefit is that it engages the community and pushes them to participate more, and it's only more beneficial for the wildlife. Lastly, these are 2 images that I found online from the World Wildlife Day, which is on March 3rd, and I feel like they represent this project very well, and they represent what I'm trying to get across very well. And it also talks about, on the left picture, raising awareness and inspiring youth to become more involved with the wildlife and protecting them. And I think that this is very important because obviously we all know that wildlife is important, and I think it's very important because we rely on them just as much as they rely on us. They make some of our foods, they help our plants grow, and we need to show our appreciation back to them, and we need to be educated on how to help them and how to make sure that they have the proper resources. So I think that city meetings might be important, or making everyone take an environmental science class, for example, might be important. It's also important to visit national parks and to donate to our own cities to make sure that we have the proper money to be spending on the wildlife, because they do play such a crucial role in our lives. And in the right picture, I will show that it says, "The future of the wildlife is in our hands," and it shows the earth and all the animals on it in our hands, literally, because as we are the primary caretakers of this earth, being humans, it's essential for us to make sure that all of these species around the world are getting proper resources and that they are being taken care of, because we need just as much from them as they need from us, and without them there would be nothing, and without us there would be nothing. So it's very tough because we rely on each other so much, but since we do have the upper hand, we need to make sure that they have the proper resources to survive, and we need to make sure that they are protected. That's the end. Thank you very much for listening.